There is a quiet panic moving through America's rental markets, and most people still don't understand how serious it is. For years, landlords operated with absolute confidence. They believed they were insulated from risk. They believed demand would always rise. They believed tenants would line up indefinitely. They believed real estate was a one-direction market, up. For a decade, that assumption went unchallenged. Cheap money encouraged reckless buying. Institutional funds gobbled up entire subdivisions. Smaller investors copied their moves, paying prices that made sense only in a world where rents kept rising at 10 to 20% a year. Airbnb hosts converted family neighborhoods into mini hotels. Everyone leveraged debt, everyone scaled aggressively, everyone chased returns that only existed in a sugar-high market pumped full of stimulus, remote work relocations, and housing scarcity. But in 2025, reality has returned, and the truth is now impossible to ignore. Airbnb revenues have collapsed in America's biggest vacation corridors. Investor-heavy cities are drowning in oversupply. Tenants have more options than at any time in recent memory. And landlords who stretch themselves thin are discovering a brutal fact that the last decade made easy to forget. Real estate does not always go up. Sometimes it collapses. And when it collapses, it destroys the people holding the most debt. Today, we're breaking down the 10 American cities where landlords are losing everything. The markets where oversupply, declining rents, poor underwriting, collapsing Airbnb revenue, and declining population flows have created financial crises most investors never thought possible. Homes sitting vacant, rental prices slashed 30%, condos entering foreclosure, hosts abandoning properties. Entire neighborhoods dark at night. This is the investor reckoning almost nobody predicted. If you're new here, subscribe to Discover the Nation so you don't miss the housing stories mainstream media still refuses to cover. Now let's examine the 10 markets where the rental collapse has already arrived. 10. Phoenix, Arizona. The icon of overconfidence. For years, Phoenix was the poster child of America's investor frenzy. Between 2020 and 2022, the metro saw an explosion of investor activity unlike anything in the western United States. Institutional buyers aggressively purchased single-family homes at 30 to 40% above pre-pandemic values. Smaller investors rushed in, believing they could ride the wave. The short-term rental market exploded in suburbs like Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler, and Gilbert. A house that earned $150 a night in 2018 could suddenly command $300 or more by 2021. But this was a mirage. Behind the scenes, Phoenix was quietly building one of the largest apartment pipelines in the nation. Developers went all in, convinced demand would absorb every unit forever. By 2024, Phoenix had more units under construction than Los Angeles, Chicago, or Houston. Entire corridors, Tempe, Midtown, North Phoenix, turned into construction zones. And when 2025 arrived, the consequences hit instantly. Vacancy skyrocketed, rents fell, concessions became standard, entire buildings opened with occupancy below 50%. A one-bedroom that rented for $800 2 years ago now struggles to hit $1,450s. Short-term rentals got hit harder. Airbnb revenue is down 40% from peak. Homes that once booked every weekend now sit dark for weeks at a time. Phoenix is no longer a growth story. It's a cautionary tale. 9. Tampa, Florida, the insurance crisis city. Few Sunbelt cities flipped as fast as Tampa. From 2019 to 2022, Tampa was flooded with investors fleeing high-tax states. The city looked irresistible. Low taxes, growing population, fast rent appreciation. But what looked like a perfect storm of opportunity turned into a perfect storm of risk. The biggest blow? Florida's insurance crisis is punishing landlords brutally. Premiums that once cost $3,000 are now over $7,000 for many homeowners. Some quotes exceed $10,000. That alone destroys cash flow. At the same time, Tampa's population inflow slowed significantly. New construction surged, rental inventory exploded. The result? Rents are falling, vacancy is rising. In some neighborhoods, landlords are cutting prices by $300 to $600 just to secure a tenant. Short-term rentals are collapsing even faster. Airbnb revenue in Tampa is down up to 30%. Operators who once earned $5,000 in peak seasons are struggling to break $3,000. Between insurance hikes, rising taxes, and falling rents, thousands of Tampa landlords are discovering that the Sunbelt boom did not guarantee Sunbelt profits. 8. Austin, Texas. When tech hype meets oversupply. Austin became America's tech darling, and investors treated it like guaranteed money. They were wrong. In 2022, Austin had the fastest rent growth in the nation, but developers misread the market. They built luxury supply at a pace Austin simply couldn't absorb. By late 2024, Austin had more new apartments under construction per capita than nearly any city in the country. In 2025, those units hit the market all at once. Rents immediately fell, occupancy plunged, luxury towers opened with 30% of units vacant. Landlords who bought condos at premium pricing are now underwater, with rents no longer covering mortgages, taxes, and HOA fees. Short-term rentals are also collapsing. Properties that once charged $300 a night during SXSW or ACL are now listing for $150 and still struggling to fill. Austin's story is simple. Investors bought based on hype, not fundamentals. Developers built for maximum profit, not long-term stability. And the market cracked under its own weight. 7. Atlanta, Georgia. The institutional failure. Atlanta was ground zero for Wall Street's landlord invasion. Institutional buyers like Blackstone, Invitation Homes, and others bought tens of thousands of houses, reshaping entire suburbs. Smaller investors followed, believing Atlanta rentals were a safe bet. For years, the strategy worked. Then everything reversed. Construction exploded. Build-to-rent communities multiplied. Mid-rise apartments opened faster than the city could absorb them. In 2025, Atlanta is drowning in inventory. Landlords are offering unprecedented incentives. 2 months free, zero deposit move-ins, gift cards, rent credits. Older properties are suffering the most. A unit that rented for $1,700 in 2022 now rents for $1,300 in February, if it rents at all. Short-term rentals, once a gold mine in neighborhoods like Midtown and Buckhead, have collapsed. Airbnb occupancy is at multi-year lows, and investors are converting units to long-term rentals, only to discover long-term demand is equally weak. Atlanta's rental market isn't just cooling, it's resetting entirely. 6. Orlando, Florida. The tourism rental collapse. Orlando lived and died by tourism. For years, investors treated the region like a guaranteed Airbnb jackpot. Communities in Kissimmee, Davenport, and Four Corners were built exclusively for short-term rentals. In peak seasons, these houses generated $4,000 to $6,000 a month. But by 2024, supply doubled. By 2025, demand fell. Travelers shifted toward cheaper Gulf Coast destinations. Airbnb prices plummeted. Occupancy collapsed. A house that once commanded $300 a night now struggles at $175. Long-term rentals haven't saved the market either. Orlando has an avalanche of new apartments opening simultaneously. Rents are falling, vacancy is rising, landlords are panicking. Orlando is now one of the clearest examples of what happens when an investor market relies on tourism demand that doesn't grow fast enough to match explosive Airbnb supply. 5. Denver, Colorado, a mountain of miscalculation. Denver was one of the most desirable relocation cities of the past decade, but investors misread the durability of that trend. Developers built too fast, investors bought too high, and now the market is paying for it. Denver's rental supply has surged across all submarkets: downtown, Highland, Cherry Creek, Aurora, Lakewood, and beyond. In 2025, rents are falling, vacancy is expanding, luxury buildings are offering huge incentives. Older properties are drowning in competition. Even duplex and triplex owners, a staple of Denver investing, are feeling the pain. Adjustable rate mortgages have crushed cash flow. Higher taxes and insurance have erased margins. Airbnb hosts are also being hammered. Occupancy is down, revenue is down, competition has doubled. Denver's collapse is a reminder that even strong cities can overbuild themselves into a crisis when irrational investor optimism collides with delayed construction pipelines. 4. Miami, Florida, the insurance apocalypse. Miami was America's most aggressive boom market, but it is now ground zero for the biggest rental bloodbath in the country. Two forces are destroying landlords: insurance and excessive supply. Insurance premiums that used to cost $3,500 are now over $10,000 for many condos and houses. Special assessments are crushing condo investors with fees that add $300, $500, or even $800 per month. Meanwhile, Miami's high-rise construction boom has flooded the market with tens of thousands of luxury units. Tenants have choices, landlords have losses, short-term rentals have collapsed hardest. Airbnbs that once earned $5,000 monthly now bring in $2,500 to $3,200, not nearly enough to cover HOA fees, insurance, taxes, and mortgages. Foreclosures are quietly rising in downtown towers. Many units sit empty for months. Miami became the symbol of unlimited investor optimism. Now it's an example of what happens when optimism meets math. 3. Nashville, Tennessee, the tourism trap. Nashville became the darling of tourism investors. It didn't last. Developers built too much. Airbnb hosts oversaturated the city. Population growth slowed. Tourism flattened. In 2025, short-term rental revenue is down 30%. Long-term rent is down. Vacancy is up. Incentives are everywhere. Investors who once believed Nashville's rise was unstoppable are now selling at losses or abandoning properties altogether. Nashville's collapse is not just economic, it's psychological. The belief that Nashville would always grow blinded investors to one of the most basic truths in real estate. When supply doubles and demand doesn't, markets break. 2. Las Vegas, Nevada, the desert of empty units. Las Vegas is experiencing one of the most dramatic rental declines in the country. The city rode a pandemic migration boom, but that wave has reversed. Developers kept building, investors kept buying, tourism cooled, population growth slowed. Now, vacancy in some areas exceeds 20 to 25%. New apartments are half full, rents are down by hundreds of dollars. Airbnb revenue has collapsed. Units that once earned $450 to $500 per night now struggle at $175 to $225. Landlords are abandoning properties. Foreclosures are rising. Negative cash flow is widespread. Las Vegas is no longer an investor dream, it's a warning symbol. 1. Scottsdale, Arizona. The epicenter of the Airbnb meltdown. No market in America has crashed harder for landlords than Scottsdale. During the boom years, Scottsdale was the Airbnb goldmine. Investors paid record-high prices for homes serving bachelor parties, golf tourists, and seasonal visitors. But by 2025, supply has exploded. Scottsdale now has more short-term rentals than it has short-term rental demand. Nightly rates have fallen 40 to 50%. Occupancy has tanked. Houses sit empty for weeks at a time. Carrying costs are enormous. Mortgage, $3,000 to $5,000. HOA, $200 to $800 utilities. Cleaning pool service insurance, now significantly higher. Many landlords are losing thousands every month. Foreclosures are rising. Distressed sales are increasing. Entire neighborhoods look abandoned half the month. Scottsdale is the clearest example in America of what happens when investor greed overwhelms economic logic. The bottom line, these 10 cities reveal a truth America hasn't faced in over a decade. The investor boom is over, the rental bubble has popped, and the markets run by speculation, Airbnb mania, and institutional overconfidence are now collapsing. Oversupply, falling rents, rising vacancy, insurance disasters, debt pressure, declining tourism, population stagnation. The perfect storm hit all at once. This is only the beginning. And we will continue exposing the markets where the collapse is accelerating next. If you want more deep investigations into America's real estate unraveling, subscribe now. More stories are coming.